Alright, you guys, today I am back again with another video, and today I want to talk about Naruto versus One Piece. Now, I have to say that this was a debate that actually kind of surprised me that I was seeing going on like Reddit and Facebook and TikTok. Like, it really just caught me by surprise that One Piece and Naruto actually had some form of rivalry outside of like, oh, well, which series is better? But people actually were debating which one of the verses was actually stronger, and I kind of thought that this was a pretty obvious debate. So I kind of decided to put my own 2 cents into it and really kind of go in and explain, okay, so my personal take on exactly which one of these two powerhouses amongst the big three are exactly the strongest. If you all actually enjoy this video, like I said, maybe I'll actually involve Bleach and kind of do Bleach, Naruto, and all this stuff and go from there. But for now, just kind of seeing this more often, which really shocked me because I always thought that it was Naruto versus Bleach. But hey, to each their own. So let's just put my own two input on this. Now, of course, there are a few things, very slight, but still some spoilers that will be involved in this. So, like usual, you have been warned. So, can't, don't want to hear no crap about, no, you spoiled this for me. You know how this go. Now, to start this simple thing off, I figure we'll start with the One Piece side of things. And the most obvious one and the most obvious argument that I've seen so far is using Whitebeard as a kind of starting point of their argument of why they're stronger. And as you know, Whitebeard, at least by the time of the Marineford War situation going on, Whitebeard was considered being the strongest person in the world, which kind of he was wild in that entire arc, and it was actually one of my favorite. But of course, like I said, Whitebeard was kind of implied as being the strongest man in the world. In fact, it was blatantly stated on a few occasions and things of that nature. So at the time, he is the strongest in the world. And of course, with the strongest man in the world, it is also constantly stated by characters like Sengoku, the nature that yes, this is a powerful person that has enough power that he actually can destroy the world. This statement is repeatedly made and is constantly implied. So because of that, people usually equate that to, okay, so Whitebeard, based off of this statement and stuff, Whitebeard was a planetary threat. Which, like I said, for the sake of this argument, like I said, I'm not going to debate it. I'm just going to roll with it and say, okay, so at this point, Marineford, he's the strongest person in the world, and he is a planetary threat. All right, no problem. We'll roll with this for now. So, with that being stated, so basically we can take this statement and move on from there by going with the Yonko. As we know, the Yonko, also with the Admirals, of course, but mainly the Yonko for this portion. Yonkos are essentially seen as being the strongest pirates, basically, the strongest people. That only people that can kind of rival them are actually like admirals and things of that nature. So at this point, we can actually use that as a jumping off point, saying, okay, so Whitebeard was the strongest. He died 2 years later. As we know, the 2-year time skip, we can say that the Yonkos actually got stronger than them, and even at the time, they should have been somewhat relative to them in the first place. So just by using that, we'll use it as a jump off point. And for the terms of ranking, it doesn't really matter, but just for the sake of argument, we'll say, because I've seen throughout the community, it's usually Big Mom. People say that Big Mom was the weakest, and then Blackbeard, and then Kaido, and then Shanks, and so on and so forth. But like I said, for the sake of this video, it doesn't really matter what you rank him. Just know that basically, just for the sake of argument, we'll say that each of the Yonko, because 2 years passed, they did more training, got more powerful than even Whitebeard. Which actually wouldn't really be that far off by saying, because even in the battle between Kaido and Odin, for example, Odin was able to damage him, but he damaged Kaido in his dragon form. Now we later on see that Kaido actually, such as in the current chapter, he actually has another form, either somewhat beyond that. You can make the argument. It seems like it's actually a form that's more powerful, but like for the sake of this, it does kind of support that, yes, even Odin defeated a weaker Kaido many years before the Marineford arc, and it makes sense that throughout the years, the Yonko, of course, to maintain their powers while the new generations have come up to make sure they're still stronger than them, it would make sense that they get more powerful. This is also backed up with other things such as Big Mom. We know that even Big Mom has kind of like a base form and a kind of superpowered form, if you will. Such as the form that we're seeing like on the screen now, where she kind of fuses in with all three of her weapons, Napoleon, Zeus, and Prometheus. She kind of fuses with all of them, kind of gets this flaming like hair, and we've seen it in the series. She seemed to be more powerful using this form. It wasn't something, it's more like Big Mom when she's getting serious. So it does kind of support the argument I'm saying that yes, they could have been doing more training. This could have been forms that they shown. Consider it's never even implied that they could use these forms before, you know what I'm saying, before they were appeared on screen during like the Whole Cake Island and the Wano arc. So it does make sense they became more powerful. So yet again, we can say that Big Mom, of course, being a rival, being stronger, she also has this form to increase it. Kaido being the same way. And they say he has his base form, and then he has his dragon form, and then he kind of has his hybrid form, which currently in the manga, it seems like it could be a good little mix, if you will, where it seems like he has the powers, like he seemed to gain more power than he had when he was a dragon, while also still keeping the mobility and speed that he had while he's in his humanoid form. So it seems like it could be a good hybrid. Seems to increase his power, speed, durability, and things of that nature. So yet again, shorter, more powerful. So he also has these forms as well, which makes him even more powerful than he was. And like I said, considering we're using it as a way to show that they're more powerful than Whitebeard, this is where we're going. Shanks, on the other hand, like I said, Shanks being the mystery still in One Piece. You know, we haven't seen Shanks fight since the entire fucking series began. Just annoying to say the least. Considering he's a lot of people's favorite characters, but we do know that he should be at least somewhat comparable to Kaido, if not stronger, considering he did stop Kaido from going to Marineford, though we don't really know how that is. You know, we don't really know exactly how that is, but we do know he did somehow stop him. And granted, Blackbeard was able to hurt him, but we don't really know exactly what fully happened. We do know that he wasn't holding back or caught off guard, so, you know, props to Blackbeard as well. We also had the fact that at the time, right before the Marineford, right before Whitebeard went, Shanks and Whitebeard did indeed clash, and they seemed somewhat even, and even performed the feat that a lot of people bring up again, such as them splitting the clouds and stuff in half, which yet again is extremely impressive, but you know. But either way, it is kind of shown that at this point, Whitebeard being the strongest person in the world, Shanks not really backing down. It shows that yes, he should have been relative. So just to kind of help support the claim that, yeah, for the sake of this argument, we'll say that they actually surpassed them. And yet again, not Whitebeard, but Kaido and Big Mom also seemed like they were pretty even when they met later on at Wano. Neither one of them were actually afraid of the other one and actually was prepared to go to battle. Yet again, they performed the same feat that Shanks and Whitebeard did when they clashed, which was splitting the sky in half as soon as they clashed. So yet again, just pretty much anything just to kind of demonstrate that, yes, you know what I'm saying, these characters, for the sake of this argument, we'll say that they were relative to Whitebeard, but after the 2-year time skip and Whitebeard's been dead for a while, of course, they were able to improve themselves and get stronger than Whitebeard, showing that they should all be over Whitebeard's planetary statement, showing that they should all be above that. Now, the Admirals are also in this situation as well, because even though the Yonkos are seen as being some of the strongest pirates, the Admirals are also seen as being some of the strongest Marines. And it's usually kind of seen as the Admirals being kind of like the only ones, you know what I'm saying, outside of the other pirates that can actually take on the Yonkos. Showing that, like I said, yet again, for the sake of the argument, we're not going to go through like an in-depth power scale on exactly where they stand. Yet again, just kind of go with it and say that, yes, they are also, for the sake of this argument, after the 2-year time skip, they should also be above Whitebeard as well. Showing that they should also be above this planetary statements as well, which does kind of make sense considering when Whitebeard did go into battle, such as when he went into a battle with Akainu. Even Akainu was able to clash with Whitebeard, and neither one of them were seemingly kind of backing down from another. And yes, Akainu did kind of get mollywopped later at the end, but he was kind of caught off guard for the time being. And even then, while being caught off guard, he still was able to damage, like, enrage Whitebeard at the time, showing that yes, he could still counter his attacks and damage him as well. And we have seen that, we do know that Akainu and Aokiji had their long fought battle where Akainu barely won. Well, not really barely won, but we do know that he won over Aokiji, but it was still a battle that lasted a while, showing that yes, they should all be relative to one another. So yet again, for the sake of argument, the Admirals and Yonkos should be in the same tier of power, showing that yes, the Yonkos, Blackbeard, Shanks, Kaido, Big Mom, they're all relative and should have surpassed Whitebeard as well, as same as Akainu, Fujitora, Kizaru, and all the other Admirals. Can't remember the other guys. But we should all say that they are all around that same tier of power, showing that they should all, just for the sake of argument, we'll say that because he also passed, we're not going to say which one's stronger than which, but just for the sake of argument, they all surpass Whitebeard, showing that they should each be at around multi-planetary levels of power. Now, let's move on to the Naruto side of things. Now, this is kind of why I'm just going to say this now. I don't quite understand why this is really up for debate in this situation, on why even me giving the benefit of the doubt to the One Piece characters with their statements of, and even putting all the high tiers of the verse at planetary plus, or really multi-planetary in this case, still don't really see how they compare to Naruto. And here's why. Now, for to start off with Naruto, the most basic statement: the nine-tailed fox that was sealed inside of Naruto was constantly stated in the guidebooks that it could turn the world to ash. And even if you don't mean that he could just blow up the planet and just render it, vaporize it or whatnot, it should still be anywhere between a high multi-continental feat to planetary, and that's just with half of the nine tails, the half that was sealed inside of Naruto. It was also stated in the guidebook at the same time, that the nine tails, and using the image, you're showing that when the nine tails was cooperating with Naruto, had earth-shattering destructive power, showing that yet again you could make the argument that, judging by the guidebook statement, it could be also a planetary threat. And I do understand that a lot of people tend to say that the guidebooks are very unreliable because they do say some off-the-wall stuff, but as long as it doesn't really contradict anything, the guidebooks should be able to be used. And in this case, it doesn't really contradict anything, considering we later see how the nine tails fares against the 10 tails. The 10 tails being a extremely powerful being that surpasses every other tailed beast, and while it's in its incomplete form, and considering the fact it has a casual attack of the Cataclysm, which is already calculated being high multi-continental, this tail beast bombs, which should be at least relative, if not even more powerful than the nine tails, was still able to use its tails and kind of cover itself and tank the attack, showing that planetary, high multi-continental planetary is a pretty reasonable state for the nine tails, and it should be more so comparable with the 10 tails as well, showing that even the 10 tails, the 9 tails, and 10 tails are already in that planetary levels of power, which is also backed up when we literally see the sensory unit compare the 10 tails appearance. Even though at this point it is still incomplete, it is still blatantly said that its overall, just its chakra quantity was turning the sphere into its own little planet, showing that literally even just the 10 tails chakra in itself, he has planetary levels of chakra on his own, which is also backed up by the fact that, like I said before, the nine tails with only half his power, who could arguably be a planet level threat himself, also tells Naruto, no point in you even going into Sage mode to try to sense his energy, because all you'll see is that it's just immeasurable, showing that even the nine tails, who could arguably be a planetary threat, also sees the 10 tails as being far beyond anything else that the verse has ever seen. So yet again, even the 10 tails himself, the 9 tails and the 10 tails is already rivaling the high tiers in the One Piece verse. The same thing could be said with characters like Madara, who was able to casually tame the 9 tails. It even used its full power, not half of it like Naruto, but the full extent of his powers, and clad it with Susanoo cloak and fight it in his battle against Hashirama, showing that even characters like Madara are capable of being in that planetary levels. And we later see that just with him attaining one Rinnegan was capable of bodying the nine tails and the other eight-tailed beast, all at the same time, showing that even Madara should be in this level as well. Same thing as Hashirama as well, considering even Hashirama battled Madara, the full power of the nine tails, and the nine tails with it being cloaked in Susanoo armor, and just by using his 1,000-arm wood release statue, he casually bodied the nine tails and Madara, and then had to fight them without it. He managed to body all of them, seal the nine tails, subdue the nine tails and things of that nature by himself. So even Hashirama should be in that state, let alone also you have 10 tails, Jinchuriki, Obito as well, even though he was in his incomplete form, was still a Jinchuriki, which we know the Jinchuriki are actually more powerful than it would be in their pure tail beast form. See? So even Obito with the 10-tailed Jinchuriki should also be more powerful than these characters. Let alone even someone like Madara, who actually obtained the full powers of the 10 tails and became his Jinchuriki, and was even stated by Hagorama, that he was actually seen as being almost as powerful as him, and was even trying to reach the levels of Kaguya, showing that yet again, a incomplete Ten Tails is already also a planet level threat, and Jinchuriki are seen as being more powerful. So yet again, these characters are also in that multi-planetary range, just arguably want to do that, let alone even characters like Toneri in the last movie, who casually, wasn't even intending to, but casually split the moon in half, which is absolutely bonkers. And even characters like Kinshiki are also stated in like the Boruto guide to also be a world splitter as well, showing that even characters like Kinshiki are also a bare minimum planetary. And these are still some of the fodder tier characters later on that appear in Boruto. Even at the end of Naruto, you have characters like Kaguya, who, as you've seen in my video, we go up and down, and a lot of the Kaguya fanboys, don't really agree with the scaling of her. But even characters like Kaguya, who were able to also gain the power of the Ten Tails, as well as being even above that when she first appeared. When she first appeared, her chakra was stated to be even greater than Madara's at the Ten Tails Jinchuriki, showing that she was already stronger than him. And of course, even she with the being able to destroy her own time space with the help of the alliance. And then you also have characters like Momoshiki, who is extremely powerful as well, and was also stated as being more powerful, well, not really stated, but implied as being more powerful than Kaguya, who in the novels was also shown that he literally could create his own dimensions with red light nebulas, and was even able to absorb chakra from stars. Okay, from stars, showing that he can literally even absorb star and should be around star level in terms of power. And that's just Momoshiki, let alone Jigen or Ishiki in Jigen's body. Even while being in a body that was pretty much breaking down on him on every second of every day, he was still casually capable of bodying even a full-powered Hokage Naruto and adult Sasuke, who beforehand, with only less than half of their power, was capable of just boxing and overpowering Momoshiki in his full power. Let alone when Jigen actually does have to, or is forced into his real form, which then also casually bodies a full-powered adult Naruto and Sasuke again, and even a Baryon form Naruto. He even bodies him as well, even though the Baryon form was literally limiting his time. He still beat that Naruto as well. Showing it yet again, no matter what you're really trying to do, even if you compare and give One Piece the benefit of the doubt and say that their high tiers are in that multi-planetary levels of power, they still pretty much would struggle with beating characters like Kage and stuff in their own dimension. Like, they still would struggle beating like any character in Naruto that possesses 6 past powers and abilities, which is unfortunate. Now, like I said, they do have some of their own hacks abilities and things of that nature, like the Logia users not being able to be touched technically, but not really going to mean anything when they can just unleash an attack that can just blow up planets which they can't deal with. So, and also most of the Yonkos aren't even Logia users anyway, so it doesn't really matter. The point I'm getting across is Naruto is clearly a far more superior verse, especially closer to the end of Naruto, and of course they are way out of One Piece leads when it comes to Boruto and how powerful that series is as well. So trust me, I know it hurts One Piece fans, but unfortunately Naruto is just the superior verse. Trust me, at least in terms of power scaling, you can definitely make the argument that One Piece is better in terms of storytelling and things of the nature, but that's a video for another day. In the meantime, if you all enjoyed the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to see me do more versus battles, by all means, let me know in the comments. And until next time, you guys, see you. Peace.